In the grand tapestry of British royal history, a new and complex chapter is quietly beginning to unfold, catching many observers by surprise. After years of a very public and emotionally charged separation, a series of surprising reports from reliable sources close to the heart of the monarchy have emerged. They suggest a startling possibility. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, are preparing for a return visit to the United Kingdom within just a few weeks. What makes this potential return so truly remarkable is not simply the act of coming back, but the astonishing detail that has left seasoned royal commentators and members of the public alike in a state of utter disbelief. The self-exiled couple, who notably walked away from their duties as senior working royals amidst significant controversy, will not, as one might expect, be finding their own private accommodation or discreetly checking into a luxury hotel. Instead, credible insiders are strongly indicating that they have been offered, by none other than King Charles himself, the remarkable privilege of staying within the high-security confines of a royal palace. This extraordinarily generous gesture, extended across the deep divide of the ongoing family conflict, has raised countless questions and set off a firestorm of speculation that is rapidly growing. The idea that a palace, the quintessential symbol of the very institution the couple so frequently and fiercely criticized from across the Atlantic, could once again serve as their home, albeit temporarily, is almost too extraordinary to comprehend. To fully understand the magnitude of this unexpected developments and the profound implications it holds for everyone involved, we first must look deeper than the headlines. We need to peer beneath the seemingly simple facade of this singular act of generosity and consider what intricate and powerful emotional dynamics might be at play here for both the king and his younger son. Is this a moment of genuine, heartfelt familial rapprochement, or perhaps a carefully considered strategic move on a much grander scale? The complexities surrounding this potential reconciliation are immense. This unfolding story touches upon the deepest human emotions, love, forgiveness, and the difficult desire to repair broken bonds, while simultaneously navigating the relentless glare of international public opinion and the immense, unyielding pressures of maintaining an ancient institution in the modern world. It involves personalities that have been etched into the public consciousness through countless news cycles, all while navigating the treacherous waters of a seemingly endless media storm. In this special report, which we will bring to you in 3 carefully crafted parts, we will begin by meticulously examining this unfolding drama. And we encourage you to stay tuned for the whole story as we journey towards a complete understanding of why this matters so deeply in the grand scheme of the British monarchy, and indeed for the perception of royal power and family unity in the 21st century. Before we move into the heart of the matter, if you appreciate in-depth analysis and behind-the-scenes insights like these, please don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss an installment of this fascinating saga. The announcement of the Sussex's imminent visit, paired with the astonishing revelation that they may be housed inside an official royal palace, has injected a palpable sense of tension into the public sphere, transforming a long-standing family grievance into an immediate institutional crisis. This development does not exist in a vacuum. It arrives at a moment when the monarchy is already navigating a delicate period of internal transition, highlighted by the recent unprecedented decision by King Charles to publicly disclose his personal tax bill for the financial year. Historically, the British monarch has been legally exempt from income, capital gains, and inheritance taxes, with the late Queen Elizabeth II agreeing only in 1993 to pay income tax voluntarily as a gesture of goodwill following the public backlash over the funding of the Windsor Castle restoration. By taking this a step further and revealing the exact figures derived from the lucrative Duchy of Lancaster, which generated around £24 million, or roughly $30 million. The king has clearly sought to project an image of absolute transparency, modern accountability, and fiscal responsibility to a public increasingly cynical about institutional privilege. Yet this highly choreographed display of openness stands in stark, almost jarring contrast to the simultaneous allegations of preferential, opaque housing arrangements within the wider royal family. Independent investigations and internal watchdogs have recently pointed out that other members of the family continue to enjoy immensely advantageous, rent-free or low-cost property deals, such as Prince Andrew's long-standing arrangements at Royal Lodge or the decades of rent-free accommodation provided to his daughters at St James's Palace and Kensington Palace. This backdrop of financial scrutiny makes the decision to grant Harry and Meghan a palace sanctuary highly controversial, creating a profound friction between the palace's public relations objectives and the reality of how royal assets are deployed behind closed doors. As the date of the family's arrival draws closer, the internal friction within the royal household is reportedly intensifying, manifesting as a quiet but determined resistance from the highest echelons of the palace hierarchy. For Prince William, the Prince of Wales, and his wife Catherine, the prospect of Harry and Meghan being welcomed back with such prominent accommodations is viewed by many as a deeply troubling development, coming after a period of immense personal trial for their own young family following the princess's recent health struggles. William, who has consistently championed a more disciplined, bounded approach to royal duty, refusing to engage in what critics call competitive presentism, has frequently found himself targeted by sections of the British tabloid media, which have labelled him work-shy for choosing to prioritise his family's well-being over a packed schedule of superficial public appearances. This media narrative is perceived by some insiders as a calculated effort by external forces to destabilize the future heir, echoing the warnings Harry himself published in his memoir regarding the way different royal press offices allegedly brief against one another to manipulate public perception. The fact that the King's current communications strategy is managed by individuals with deep roots in the very media landscape that frequently critiques William only exacerbates the sense of an underlying ideological divide within the institution. William's refusal to play the traditional game of trading intimate family access for favourable press coverage has created a distinct coolness between his office and certain media outlets, making the sudden, high-profile accommodation of his estranged brother feel like a direct challenge to the stable, dignified front he has worked so tirelessly to maintain, adding a layer of deeply personal and societal tension to this unfolding drama is the highly public and symbolic warfare being waged through the medium of official photography, most notably during the recent Father's Day celebrations. The public was treated to 3 distinct images from 3 different households, each broadcasting a radically different and carefully calculated message about family, duty, and legitimacy. Kensington Palace released a remarkably formal, highly professional photograph of Prince William in his full Welsh Guards uniform alongside Princess Charlotte, a striking image captured after the Trooping the Colour ceremony that was explicitly designed to project stability, normality, and continuity for the future of the monarchy, completely eschewing the casual amateur photography that had previously caused public relations difficulties. In sharp contrast, Meghan Markle released an image of Prince Harry from their home in California, accompanied by a glowing, highly protective caption that deliberately obscured their children's faces from the camera. This persistent practice of hiding the children's faces has ignited a fierce debate among media experts who argue that, far from protecting their privacy, it inadvertently creates what is known in marketing as a curiosity gap, transforming the children into high-value objects of public fascination and commercial speculation. The contrast between William's open, institutional display of his family and Harry's heavily guarded, curated privacy underscores the incompatible paths the two brothers have chosen. Furthermore, this focus on idealized fatherhood threw a harsh, unforgiving spotlight on the absolute silence surrounding the family's estranged patriarchs, namely King Charles himself, who received no public acknowledgement from his younger son, and Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle, who remains entirely cut off from his daughter's life in the United States, despite suffering severe, life-altering health setbacks. This glaring absence of basic familial warmth behind the thin veneer of public kindness adds a chilling dimension to the couple's impending return, leaving the public to wonder how an institution built on the foundations of heritage and family can survive such profound, unresolved internal hypocrisy. To truly comprehend why this impending return to British soil matters so deeply, one must look beyond the immediate logistics of palace accommodations and examine the profound motivations driving the House of Sussex into what many seasoned observers characterize as a state of long-term professional desperation and institutional failure. Since their highly publicized departure from the United Kingdom, Harry and Meghan have attempted to establish an independent, multi-million-dollar global brand based in California, leveraging their royal status to secure lucrative production deals with major international streaming platforms like Netflix and Spotify. However, as the initial novelty of their departure has waned, the couple has encountered significant headwinds, experiencing high-profile contract cancellations and a distinct exhaustion of their creative narrative, which has heavily relied on airing personal grievances against the royal family. For Meghan, whose personal ambitions have always been inextricably linked to the acquisition of global fame, substantial financial wealth, and elevated social status, the rapid decline of her commercial ventures has created an urgent need to restore the unique cultural credibility she once possessed, a credibility that can only be generated through a tangible, visible connection to the British monarchy. For Harry, the situation is arguably more poignant and complex. Isolated in the cultural landscape of California, stripped of his official military titles, and devoid of a meaningful constitutional role, he is said to deeply miss his homeland, his lifelong friends, and the deep historical roots of his upbringing, prompting a desire to somehow worm his way back into the affections of both his immediate family and the British public. The ultimate success or failure of this high-stakes return rests entirely on who holds the upper hand in the quiet. Fierce negotiations currently taking place behind closed palace doors, away from the low-level press machinery that continues to churn out conflicting narratives. Initially, the Duke of Sussex had defiantly declared that he would only consider a return to the United Kingdom if his family issued a formal public apology for the treatment he and his wife allegedly endured during their time as working royals. Yet, as the date of their arrival approaches, no such apology has been offered or even considered by Buckingham Palace, signaling that the couple is effectively arriving on bended knees, having to submit entirely to the rigorous terms dictated by the king and his senior officials. This power dynamic is further complicated by two imminent external factors that threaten to heavily batter Harry's remaining public reputation before he even steps foot in London. The first is the highly anticipated legal judgment in his ongoing lawsuit against Associated Newspapers, where the prince's credibility was severely challenged during cross-examination regarding his past relationships with the media, leaving the royal family highly cautious of being embarrassed by a potentially condemning judicial ruling. The second obstacle is the persistent refusal of the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures to grant Harry the automatic state-funded armed protection he has fiercely demanded. meaning the couple must rely entirely on the private security envelope provided within the palace walls, further emphasizing their total dependence on the grace of the monarch. At the very center of this institutional dilemma stands King Charles himself, a complex and historical figure who is currently navigating his own profound personal trials while attempting to safeguard the future of an ancient crown. To fully understand the king's current mindset, one must look back at his long and often tumultuous biography as Prince of Wales, a period during which he was frequently perceived as a capricious, hypersensitive, and headstrong individual who routinely resisted conventional advice from his closest courtiers. Yet, despite his personal flaws and the immense tragedy of his first marriage, Charles proved himself to be an incredibly sophisticated, intelligent, and dedicated patron of British culture, architecture, and environmental sustainability, successfully executing a decades-long media strategy to rehabilitate the public image of Queen Camilla and secure her acceptance as his legitimate consort. Having achieved what many once thought was a completely impossible feat of public relations, the king may well possess a sense of defiance regarding public opinion, believing that he can apply the same patience to his younger son's rehabilitation. However, historians note that Harry lacks his father's intellect, education, and emotional stability. Having been largely left to his own devices during a turbulent adolescence before finding a temporary sense of purpose in the British Army and eventually seeking an emotional safety net in his marriage to Meghan, who has ruthlessly capitalized on his vulnerabilities for commercial upside. Ultimately, the stakes of this family reunion extend far beyond a father's natural desire to see his grandchildren, as any public display of reconciliation threatens to cause an immediate catastrophic rupture at the very core of the modern monarchy. While the king, currently in remission from a serious illness, may wish to resolve this painful feud to secure personal peace in his twilight years, his senior advisors are acutely aware that the British public remains deeply aggrieved by the Sussexes' previous actions, particularly their willingness to facilitate highly critical, ideologically driven documentary series that actively condemn the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II and the British Commonwealth. Furthermore, Prince William and Princess Catherine remain steadfastly opposed to any measure that would allow Harry and Meghan to exploit their royal titles for commercial gain, especially during high-profile events like the upcoming preparations for the Invictus Games in Birmingham, which critics argue have been completely transformed into a personal promotional platform for the Duchess's fashion partnerships rather than a celebration of wounded servicemen. If the king allows his estranged son to parade as a working member of the family without a profound public apology for his past betrayal, it will be viewed as a devastating slap in the face to William, who has remained entirely dutiful throughout this crisis. With recent polling indicating a distinct decline in public support for the monarchy over the past 3 years, the institution simply cannot afford the reputational damage of rewarding treachery, leaving the future of the crown hanging in a delicate, dangerous balance as the world watches to see whether the king will choose the survival of his dynasty over the emotional demands of his son.